All right. Emily, do you want to take over? I can stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, sure thing. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I believe this is my first time using Teams, so I'm going to attempt to share.
You got this. We believe in you, Emily.
All right. First, I am going to ask you guys, I know with all of the QR codes, I have a QR code for everybody to scan, just register their attendance, so I can follow up with all of you that attended the event today. So,
Are you sharing?
like this?
Because we can't see your screen.
Let me try again. All right. It just let me. Can you guys see it now?
No, we still cannot. Can you send a message to the chat, Emily?
Sure. Just looks like it's loading a little bit slow on my end to open the chat. Let's see. Home tab. All right. Hopefully you can see it now.
Yes, now we can. See.
Okay, perfect. So you guys can scan that QR code for me real quick, or there is that tiny URL link if you're having issues with the QR code. Also, I hope everybody's enjoying their Jimmy John's. In honor of all of you today, I actually ordered Jimmy John's for my lunch because you guys made me crave it. So I hope you guys are enjoying it.
I was going to say, I'm sorry you cannot enjoy these delicious sandwiches. I'm glad you ordered one for yourself.
Yes, it was delicious. Awesome. And then, since I can't see the room, everybody give Josh thumbs up if you're ready to go on to the presentation.
All right, everyone's ready. All right, so you can go ahead.
Everybody's ready? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're ready.
Hopefully. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Not yet. We're still on the QR code. Wait, Emily, can you hear me? We're still on the QR code, so we can't see the slides yet.
Let's see. I'll stop the share and then maybe reshare. Maybe that's why.
Okay.
All right. Now can you see it?
Nope, it's just the QR code. Are you sharing like a screen or a window?
Yeah, I'm sharing a window. Let me try one other thing. Desktop. All right, let me just try the whole window. Now, can you guys see?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, to get started, it's really nice to meet everybody. My name's Emily. I am a recruiter, specifically with the software engineer program at JP Morgan Chase. So I'm going to do a quick 15-20 minute resume tips and tricks deck for you, and then I'll stop and pause at the end of this to see if there are any questions before I dive into a little bit more detail specifically about our software engineer program. So even if you are not a software engineering major, these resume tips and tricks should still hopefully be helpful to all of you. I hope so. So it is not just software engineering specific. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off. So I would say probably one of the most important things, no matter what type of job that you are wanting to apply for or get, is really understanding the important skills that you need to actually, land the position. So one of the things I like to do, even myself, is maybe Google a lot of different job postings from companies that I'm interested in, ask to shadow anybody I know that is in that industry or in that position, so I can kind of see what their day-to-day is actually like. So you can kind of tailor your resume to that specific position that you are looking for or that you are really interested in. I completely understand not everybody has a person that they can shadow. So Google is your best friend when it comes to this. So you can Google industry trends, Google different job postings, different role profiles to really see, what the type of new skills are needed, different types of trends that are coming up to put you ahead of the curve. Also, a good thing to do is write down any strengths or unique qualities that you feel like you really possess. So, that's whether you're leveraging a site like Strength Finder, Personalysis, any other type of assessment tools to see where you are really flourishing, so you can kind of talk up yourself even more in your resume. So writing out a list of those strengths and qualities is always a good start. So you can make sure to incorporate that throughout your resume. So it doesn't just look like everybody else's resume and everybody else's qualities. So just think to yourself, what type of unique knowledge or experience do you bring to the table? And maybe if you're not sure, because not, everybody is not as insightful or knows exactly what their biggest strength is, asking any coworkers, peers, maybe people in your organization, family, to just maybe write down a few strengths that they see in you is always a good start as well. So let's talk about some rookie mistakes that I, especially as a recruiter, see a lot, in resumes that I come across. So number one is probably going to be a not professional email address. So I totally understand, you have that AOL account from when you were in second grade and you put I'm Skater Girl 2897. That's totally fine. All of us have had an email address like that. You guys are probably too young to even have an AOL email address, so I'm aging myself probably. Hopefully not. But if you do, definitely try to change your email to something a little bit more professional. So when, seek job, or reviewers, recruiters are looking at things, that's not the first thing that they see on your resume. Some other things that I would say to definitely take off of your resume is anything that is unnecessary or obvious. One of my biggest pet peeves is when there's a very basic objective. So if you say something like, I am applying because I want this internship or I want this full-time position, anything extra that really doesn't tell a story or really serve a purpose, you can definitely take that off your resume. The only time I would say to include an objective is if there is a position that that's the only one you want. I want to be a, data scientist at this company for this line of business, doing this type of work. If it's something super, super niche, then you can go ahead and put that objective on there. But otherwise, you can always just leave that off. Some other rookie mistakes that I see a lot are using personal pronouns, saying their boss's name or a teammate's name, like myself and my boss Randy, or me and Randy did A, B, C, D, something like that. Definitely exclude any type of personal pronouns or names such as that. Make sure you're also using present tense. Using present tense, do not use it for a past job. So ensure that you are always using past tense if you are not currently in that position. Another great thing. Oh, can you guys hear me still?
Yeah, we can hear you. It was just cutting out for a second.
Oh, okay. No worries. I just wanted to make sure. It sounded like it was cutting out on my end. One last thing that I see a lot is make sure that you don't include anything in your resume that you don't want to talk about. So, if you had an internship and then you describe this really big complex project, and maybe it was a team effort, or maybe it was a class project, and maybe you really didn't do too much, or you weren't really a big contributor, probably don't include that on your resume, because if you were to get to an interview and if the interviewer starts asking probing questions about how did you contribute, or what did you do, and starts asking you questions and you can't answer them, that's definitely not going to be a good look. And we want you to obviously come across as best as possible, put your best foot forward, and be able to answer those questions. So, any type of projects that you're like, oh, I really didn't do too much, maybe take those off the resume, because you don't want that coming up in an interview. Next slide. So rookie mistakes, slide number 2. So again, the first bullet point, lies. Definitely don't lie on your resume. Again, don't want to open a can of worms, saying that you were a senior software engineer, at Amazon for 5 years, if in fact you were not. So department-specific jargon. So if you work at a company that has, specific acronyms or specific ways of saying things, try to avoid using that, just because people might get confused. They are not going to know what you're talking about, things like that. Obviously, never include salary information in a resume or high school information. So I know a lot of you, obviously you guys are just in college right now. So if you have one or two high school things on your resume, like a club or an organization, that's all right, especially if you're a freshman, sophomore. But, as you become an upperclassman, junior year, senior year, or if you're a master's student, definitely take out any high school information. At this point, hopefully you have more class projects you can add to your resume, college organizations that you are involved in, things like that. So just make sure to take that off. Obviously, make sure to have professional fonts, no crazy colors, anything like that. One thing I say, I love looking at creative resumes. I think they're beautiful. I know people put a lot of time into them. And they do have their place, especially if you are applying maybe for a graphic design position or a UI UX designer or something like that. The one reason I would say maybe steer away from any fancy resume is because a lot of times ATS systems, so applicant tracking systems, they don't receive those types of resumes very well. So it can kind of look jumbled and the formatting can get kind of wonky. when you submit your resume to a company. So unfortunately, it's probably best just to stay really basic and boring when it comes to the formatting. Of course, make sure that you are not putting way too much content on the page. Where you guys are at in your life, 1 page is maximum. You definitely shouldn't have a 3-4 page resume. So if you do, maybe take a look and start cutting some things. You definitely shouldn't have more than 1 page. And then, of course, make sure you are taking up most of that page. If you only are halfway or a quarter down the page, definitely try to add some more content to that resume. Of course, proofread. Ensure that, you're sending it to your parents or your peers or a friend, or even if you have a recruiter that you're in contact with, you can always send it to them, even if you're not currently working with them on a specific position. They're always a good resource to look over resumes, make sure that nothing looks out of place, and make sure that you're on the right track. Again, don't overly share any personal information or interests. Sometimes, people like to put an interest section at the bottom of the resume. I personally like that. I think it's cool if you say, hey, I'm super into gaming, or I'm really into this type of music or surfing or whatever the case may be. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if your personal interest section is bigger than maybe your technical skill section or your education section, that's probably getting into, bad territory. You might not want to put, half of the resume as your personal information. Awesome. Next slide. So this is typically what I like to see as the resume layout. So obviously, name, contact information at the top. Some people put their full address, but I don't really think that's necessary. You don't have to put your full address. At the most, I would maybe just put your city and state. Or if you are looking, if you're not looking in the Cincinnati area or even in Ohio, you can always put a little asterisks and say open to relocation, something like that. If you have a website, a GitHub, LinkedIn, you can always add those links at the top as well. Then it should be education, technical skills, work and project experience, and then ending with any community involvement, awards, publications, anything like that. For the education section, obviously make sure that you are putting graduation date. That is the biggest thing, especially for recruiting candidates such as you guys that are coming from, right out of school. Recruiters really, really need to know your graduation date, because that will show, if you're available for just a summer internship, or if you're going to be graduating soon, and then can, start full time with us. So definitely make sure to keep the graduation date on there. You can include GPA. I would say, a lot of companies do have a GPA requirement, so they might end up asking you that anyway. So instead of them having to ask you, sometimes it's good just to put it on your resume already. I will say, just to call out, for the software engineer program, we don't have a required GPA. So again, I think it just depends from program to program or job to job, company to company, what people prefer. But it's best practice just to keep it on there, because a lot of the times they will ask for it. Of course, you can add any specific or relevant coursework, and add, any Dean's List achievements, scholarship achievements, things like that. Technical skills section. So this kind of goes back to what I talked about on slide 1. So, make sure that you are staying up to date and current with current technology, especially, if you are a computer science major, if you're looking into going into a software engineer type of position. So, researching other resumes, showing the buzzwords, so to speak, of what they're putting on their resumes. You can add anything as to like types of programming that you're familiar with, frameworks, if you have any project management certifications, technical writing certifications, anything like that, you can add in the technical skills section. Awesome. And so if you see on the screen, so this is actually an example of a resume of one of our 2019 summer interns. Obviously, their information has been, their contact information, everything is not on here, and they did give permission to use their resume. But this is a really good example of a resume, that we looked at, we liked, they received an interview, and they did do a summer internship with us in 2019. So as you can see, education at the top, they list, Dean's List, graduating May 2019, which, excuse me, that means that they were an intern in 2018, not 2019. They went to Michigan State. You can see that they were an undergraduate teaching assistant, which is always great experience to have. Obviously, that shows that you're doing really well in the class, that you're able to help others learn, and doing well and exercising strong leadership skills and things like that. You can see that they put a technical skills section, which is great. Put everything that they're proficient in, and then at the bottom they have any projects that they had been doing, including the link to the GitHub, which is very nice. That's example 1. Here's example number 2, and again, this is a 2018 intern that went to Case Western. So as you can see, another teaching assistant. They were also a digital risk intern, have their programming languages, frameworks, tools laid out very nicely. This is a really good example of somebody with a really nice format, like it's laid out perfectly, it's very clear to read, easy to read, it's not too crowded, things like that. And then as you can see, they even put their projects at the bottom and what type of technology they used during those projects. And then example number 3, this is our last example. This student went to Amherst College. Again, a 2018 intern in our software engineer program. So all 3 of these people, I believe, are actually still current full-time employees at JP Morgan, all software engineers. So as you can see for Max Scholar, they were a software engineering intern already, a research assistant, showing those personal projects, and then extracurricular activities. So again, all 3 really great examples, of resumes that, myself and our fellow recruiters liked, able to get an interview, and then ultimately ended up getting the job. Awesome. So this is our last slide. So obviously, big takeaway, just ensure to put the time and effort into your resume. Trust me, I know it's really tedious. it's kind of not fun to do, but definitely just take the time, sit down, and put the effort into it. Make sure you are having it reviewed by multiple people. So not just one person, because it's really easy. I know for myself, if I send it to one person and they're like, oh yeah, it looks wonderful, and then I'll send it to my other friend and they'll be like, oh, you have 3 typos. So definitely send it to an array of people, and you'll definitely get the best results, and make sure that, everything's up to date and looking good and ready to go when you're ready to apply to any type of positions. Awesome. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and stop this share. And does anybody have any questions on resumes?
Oh, I have one question. Since you probably review or go through a lot of resumes, and the guests or the examples definitely help, but in your opinion, what does usually stand out in resumes, when you're going through a lot of them together?
Yeah, great question. So I would say like any extracurricular things, especially having to do with like the position you're applying for. So for example, I love seeing hackathon participation or things like ACM or ACMW, NESB, SHEP, any type of engineering organization that you are a part of, because that shows that, you know, you are going above and beyond just your coursework that you're taking. You know, you are interested in other facets of engineering and meeting people in the same type of field. So I would say definitely student clubs, organizations, extra hackathons, because a lot of people don't do that stuff. They don't do the extracurricular. So if you are doing that, you're already showing, you know, you're going above and beyond.
Awesome. Well, going off of that, a little selfish plug, make UC and Revolution UC until both at UC. So you don't have to go anywhere to attend these hackathons.
Exactly. I love the plug.
Chloe?
Yeah, okay, Jeremy. Basically for the master's students, what happens when you're doing a bunch of research or you get publications and it's really hard to also want to do that? Like what would you recommend for like higher education students? What would be the support?
I could hear a little bit of that. So I don't
Okay.
know if Josh, if you can repeat.
Okay, I can repeat it. So for master's students, since they usually have like a lot of publications and papers, what is a good way to condense that, or is there like, what do you suggest they do? Because it's really hard to condense it in a one-page resume at that point.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say if you do have a lot of experience or research, if you're a master's or PhD student, to really choose the one or two projects, you know, or capstones that you really want to showcase. And, you know, for certain positions, it might be different types of projects, which I understand is annoying, making different versions of your resume. But I would say, you know, have 2 or 3 versions of your resume, one more focused on a certain area of, you know, a type of job that you might be applying to, and then one for another one. So again, especially with you guys just coming out of school, recruiters are expecting a one-page resume, and they typically don't like seeing anything longer than that. So just having those couple different versions of your resume and then using the one that corresponds the best to the particular job you're applying to would be the best way to go.
We have another question, Mahesh.
Yes. I'm wondering because you just mentioned earlier about how you shouldn't use distracting fonts, and that reminded me. I've seen a lot of resumes with different uses of color. Like some are just completely black and white. Some have some splotches of other color and some shading here and there. They have like lines and all of that geometric stuff. So it's like. What is your opinion on that? Because I've heard so many conflicting things like, oh, just use black and white, here's going to read it better. Oh, just make it stand out, use some color. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, great question. So I am totally fine if you use color. I would say use it as an accent though. Like I wouldn't put your whole resume in like bright pink or like bright purple or something. So I would say like the body, like the information, just keep black text. But then, if you want your headings to be a different color or the lines separating it to be a different color, I think that's completely fine. The only thing I would stay away from is making those super insanely like I'm not saying they're beautiful, they're great resumes in like people use like Photoshop and Canva and all of these different tools, and they just don't translate well a lot of the times when you upload a resume to an application system. So sometimes it just gets funky and it'll look really weird and it's hard to read for the recruiter. So I would stay away from those. Just use basic Word, which I know is super boring. But as far as using color, I think it's totally appropriate, as long as it's not, like I said, completely bright pink all the way down.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, did you have a question? Yeah, I think that's it for the question. Thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Awesome. Well, I'm taking a drink of water real quick.
Mhm.
I am going to go ahead and share our next quick presentation just about the general software engineer program. And I won't take a long time. I'll try to get through it in like 10 minutes, so we have plenty of time for questions. So I promise I'm going to share this better than last time. I have learned my lesson. Okay. You guys can see everything all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so slideshow. Awesome. All right, so these are some, actually, these three folks here are actually some three engineers that are currently at the firm right now. So they are not just random stock images. These are some folks that went through our software engineer program. So first, I want to just talk about the opportunities, the locations that our opportunities are at. So we are around the globe. Our software engineer program has locations in EMEA, in APAC, obviously North America, South America. So as you can see on North America, we do have many different tech center locations. I believe there's 9 in total, if I'm counting correct. Clearly, I think Columbus is the best because I'm very biased, and that is where I recruit for. But our other locations are really awesome as well, and have a lot of amazing engineers that work there. Just a few quick facts about technology at JP Morgan. So we do spend around $11 billion annually in technology investment. 80% of Fortune 500 companies do business with us in one way or the other, and we do have about 50,000 plus technologists around the globe. I believe we have about 6,000 that are just in Columbus. So Columbus is actually one of the larger hubs for technology at JP Morgan. So this is kind of just a small screenshot of mobility throughout the software engineer program. So if you start all the way over on the left where it says Code for Good, career fairs, conferences. So these are just examples of places where you can get involved, where you can meet us. Obviously, this is one of those avenues as well. So we do a lot of events and talks with folks, at these types of organizations. We typically obviously do them in person. I'm very sad that I couldn't come and be there in person and eat chow down on some Jimmy John's with you guys. But alas, maybe next year, fingers crossed. So this is kind of just some examples of where we meet you. If you were to be interested in moving forward and applying, you would apply to either the software engineer program, the internship, the full-time opportunity, or we also have a third opportunity called Tech Connect, which I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next slide. If you were to do an internship for maybe next summer, let's say, the good thing is it is a retention-based program. So if you knock it out of the park, if you kill it, then you could potentially get a full-time offer the last day of your internship. So on the last day of our internship is when we actually call all of our interns and let them know if they receive a full-time offer or not. If you were to obviously get that offer, you'd enter in as a software in the software engineer program as a full-time engineer. And that program is a 2-year program. That does not mean that you lose your job after 2 years. That's definitely not what it means. All it means is that you are considered a part of that program and part of that cohort for 2 years. And then you graduate the program. And then obviously you're just a normal full-time software engineer, just like anybody else. Some of the perks to those, different opportunities I'm going to go over in the next slide. So the software engineer 2022 internship. So this is a 10-week summer internship program. I believe Brew Yugesh is in the audience somewhere. He was one of our interns. So if you guys have any questions about what he did over the summer, you can always hit him up. But it is a 10-week summer internship. Typically, it is in person. Obviously, this past year, it was virtual. Fingers crossed again that we will be able to bring it back in person this year. But you actually join a, full-time development team at JP Morgan. It's a really immersive, hands-on programming type of position. You're probably coding, I would say, between 50 to 80% of the time, depending on what type of team you're on or, what you're doing. There's a lot of paired programming that is going on because you're kind of learning while doing the project and that type of thing. The 2022 full-time software engineer program is that 2-year development program, like I mentioned. It, has perks like kind of exclusive, like networking and social activities. You get a dedicated program manager that kind of helps you navigate the first 2 years of a full-time position. You have a cohort that you start with where you go to training together. So you do a lot of interactive learning experiences. And then you also do a lot of the boring training as well, like policies and procedures. And welcome to JP Morgan Chase. Any type of job would have the normal onboarding and training and stuff like that. So luckily you get to do it all together in a more fun setting instead of doing it by yourself. And then third is our 2022 Tech Connect program. So this, again, is only open for full-time. So, the full-time software engineer and the full-time Tech Connect program, you are eligible for it if you are graduating in fall or December of this year or graduating in spring of 2022. So that's kind of the applications that you could look at. Whereas the summer internship, that is open to sophomore and junior status students right now. So if you're graduating in 2023 or 2024. And then a little bit more details on Tech Connect. So Tech Connect is for people that maybe don't have a computer science degree or aren't computer science majors. Maybe you're chemical engineering or mathematics or physics, electrical engineering. And you have a little bit of coding experience, but not tons. You feel like you need a little bit more training than somebody that has, a computer science background already. This would be a good program for you because at the beginning of your full-time role, you would actually do a multi-week intensive Java training through JP Morgan. So everything is done through us. And that helps you gain the right skills and kind of brush up a little bit more before joining the full-time software engineer program. So that Tech Connect program, that typically runs through all of June into the early part of July. So it would be June 2022 through early July 2022 is the multi-week intensive Java training. And then once you finish that training, you would join the full-time software engineer program in mid-July. So you would just become a part of that cohort. So it's really just the same big program, except you just get a little extra training along the way. This is, I know, what everybody probably wants to know about. So how do I apply and what's the interview process like? So good news is applications are open for all of these opportunities. So Tech Connect, full-time, and intern. It's super easy. You just create a normal account to complete your application. You're able to log back in to see the status, check your application status, update any resume. If you apply on, like, let's say tomorrow, and if you just have an old outdated resume, you can use that. And then, if you update it in the next day or two, you can go back and switch it out. After that is complete, you will get something called a code view. So this is a code assessment that you need to complete before your application is considered completed. There's 2 coding questions that you are going to be asked to solve. You get to choose your language. So, there's, I think, 5 or 6 different languages that you can choose from. And then you would just do those 2 coding questions. If, once your application and code view is reviewed, you obviously potentially be progressed to an interview stage. So if you are selected to move forward to interviews, you do have 2 interviews to complete, 1 behavioral interview and 1 technical interview. Typically, those are done on the same day, so it would be back to back. They range about like 35 to 45 minutes. Obviously, behavioral typically tends to go a little bit shorter. So that might be more like 35 minutes, where the technical is around 40 minutes. After interview stage is over, you typically get to hear back on final decisions within, I would say, like a week and a half, whether you would receive a offer for a 2022 role or if you would not. So hopefully that's a pretty good turnaround time. I know sometimes it can take a long time for other processes. Again, only one application is necessary, so you don't have to apply to the same application multiple times. During the application process, it will allow you to select 3 location preferences. Obviously, for you guys, your 3 preferences is going to be Columbus, 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 I'm assuming, of course. So no worries there. And then some of the minimum requirements, obviously currently enrolled in an undergraduate program, and then permanently authorized to work in the US. I will say, to call out, if you are a senior right now and you did some type of like 4-year plus a master's program, so if you did like a dual master's, like 5-year master's and undergraduate, you are still able to apply to the full-time program or the Tech Connect program. But if you're doing like a 4 or 5 years master's program or like a PhD level, this is definitely more focused as an undergraduate type of program, and probably as challenging as you probably would need. It's definitely mostly for undergraduate students. So unless, of course, you just are doing that 1-year master's. Just a little bit about our technology center in Columbus. So this past year, so for our 2021 cohort, we had 85 full-time hires come into the Columbus location, and then 90 summer interns. And then over on the right-hand side, you can kind of see different things that the Columbus interns have worked on. Anything from some automation tools, application development, some potential focus areas for both your full-time or internship position could be anything cloud, mobile development, machine learning, UI, UX, web development. We have so many different types of teams at JP Morgan. So there's many, many potential focus areas that you could get involved in for the internship or full-time role. And then, of course, why come to Columbus? So like I said, Columbus, the tech center here, is actually one of the largest in the world and in North America. So it's actually the second largest office building, second to the Pentagon in North America. So it's gigantic. It's like as long as a football field. Over 5,000 technologists work in Columbus. And then some of the amenities we have in our building include a Starbucks, which now that I'm back in the office every now and then, it's deadly. I want to stop by Starbucks like 3 times a day. So my wallet does not like that very much, but we also have 3 restaurants, a child care center, a really awesome conference center. When there's a few pictures there on the right side of our conference center. And then on the left-hand side are one of our cafeteria areas and lunchroom areas where people congregate for all different type of events and things like that. And then the last slide, again, just a little bit more about Columbus for those who've never been. Really cool city. There's a lot to do. I know every time people say Columbus, people just think of Ohio State, but there's so much more than just Ohio State here. There's a lot of cool sports teams, museums, art, music venues, a lot to do. So I know we don't have to talk about the Buckeyes. You guys are Bearcats. Go Bearcats, not Buckeyes. So plenty more to do than just, go to Ohio State when you come to Columbus. And with that, I believe that is my last slide. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share again and answer any questions you guys have.
Awesome. We have one question right now.
So it was great to hear about the opportunities for students graduating like in the summer, fall, spring, but what if you're graduating in August? Are there any accommodations or windows for that students versus graduate in August?
Yeah, good question. So I'm assuming you're going to be graduating in August of 2022, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So if you do graduate in August of 2022, you are able to apply to our software engineer full-time position for 2023. I will let you know though, off the bat, so we do have 2 potential start dates every year for full-time, people in the program. So if you graduate in August of 2022, the earliest start date you would have is February of 2023. So that is a gap. So I will let you know that we do that because we have a lot of December graduates. So then we do a February start date for them. So there would be that gap.
All right. Thanks so much, Emily. And I guess you did cover it a little bit. I guess, do you have a question?
Are there any internship opportunities that aren't in the summer?
Good question. So unfortunately not. So for the software engineer program, all of them are in the summer, which I know is rough because I know you guys do a lot of the co-op in like the spring or things like that. But unfortunately, it is only in the summer. I do know in a lot of instances, and you guys would probably know this better than me. A lot of the times I've had people that work with their like career services or student, their counselor or something to make the summer internship count as co-op for them and do it in the summer instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is something that I think Baru did as well, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And usually I think everyone gets like about 2 summer rotations, so you still have the chance to do that. You have another question. So,
how long are the summer internships applications open?
Yeah, they are open. So they're actually open for a long time. So I believe they're open through the end of the year. So I will say though, they're consistently being reviewed and then people being interviewed on a rolling basis. So the sooner you apply, the better, just because it is, basically until we meet our demand of summer interns is how long we go for. So for Columbus, we typically interview through the end of the year. But, just in case we get filled up sooner, I would definitely suggest at least applying by like mid-October so you don't rule out any chances of getting an option or opportunity to interview.
sweet. So would you say the best time to apply is right now?
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Any other questions?
Maybe this isn't a question for you, Emily, but Baru, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I'll go for the front.
Yeah.
He wants his spotlight. You want your time to shine, Baru.
It's okay. I'll let Baru have the spotlight for like, you only get 2 minutes though, Baru. Chase steals more than
All
that.
right. So yes, as Emily said, I was an intern at Chase over 2021 summer. Started in June, ended in August. Basically, I was actually in a unique experience where I was in a team with myself, 4 interns, and my 2 managers. And the tasks we worked on were actually very collaborative, which is something that I had expected or I hadn't really seen my friends do in previous co-ops or internships. So I really enjoyed that. My work was focused in document management. So Chase sends out documents to all of their customers, about different notices that they might receive in the mail. And there's metadata that controls that. For example, your first name, your last name, your address, where do they all fit on the document? So we were creating a web application that was in charge of managing it and, changing these variables that are part of the metadata. So technologies we used were Angular. I'm sure all of you have heard of Angular, and also we used a lot of Spring Boot and we actually also have a cloud system called Gaia, which is kind of similar to Google Cloud Platform and AWS. And it was a cool experience. I learned a lot, and I really love my team, and I recommend you all apply.
Sweet.
If you have
Thank you,
any questions,
Baru.
let me know.
Yeah, Baru's an expert. So any tech questions, send to him.
Hi, do you have any other questions? If not, all right. Emily, do you have any closing remarks?
Just again, I really, really appreciate you guys hosting me I promise as soon as we are all good and hopefully things are kind of back to normal, I will be on campus. I will deliver some pizza to you myself, hopefully on campus in the next spring semester, next fall semester. I just hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. And I will go ahead and send out all the application links to you guys tomorrow. I'll, whoever put in their attendance and things like that, I'll send that out to them. And then, of course, any members that couldn't join, Josh, if you want to go ahead and forward those to them as well, just to make sure everybody has all the opportunities. And feel free to reply to my email if anybody has any questions at any time. But I just appreciate you guys hosting me. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Everyone say bye, Emily.
Bye, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. Our meeting isn't entirely done. We still have like just closing remarks for ACM. So I'll be real quick. Be sure to join our sibling organizations, IEEE, ACMW, Women in Tech, and ITSA. Nishal, do you want to talk real quick about Google Developer stuff?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Nishal. I'm the president of Google Developer Student Club. So basically, to keep it short, you can already see our mission statement here, but we focus more on applicative learning, and we hope to have a lot of technical workshops over the semester. We have our meetings on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. So it will not be the next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. So if you guys are interested, join our Discord community. I think it should be over.
If you want to scan this real quick, you can. But I'll also send, Nishal already has sent it on ACM Slack. If not, we can send it again. If you want to lead a workshop, come talk to me or any of the execs after. That's our upcoming meeting by Baru. And other just, thank you for coming. Make sure if you haven't signed in yet, I know some of you came late, make sure that you sign in so that we can register your attendance. Thank you so much. We'll be around here for a while. What?
Where do we sign?
Oh, it's at this link over here. If you see acm@uc.org/d.
How do we actually get the register?
Oh, so if
I
you
got the email, so does it mean I'm registered already?
no, so if you sign in on that link acm@uc.org/d, you can start anything done. Although I do need to stop the recording, so give me 1 second.